Hello, welcome to One Tech World. My name's Lee. I'm a data and AI scientist, currently working at one of the UK's largest banks, where my job is basically to help the bank actually use AI in the real world. I've worked on several large projects, including RAG systems and AI agents. And very quickly, I realized something. Getting LLM system to work in a demo is easy. Getting it to work in reality is a completely different story. The gap between it looks cool and it actually works is what I want to talk about today. Depending on where you are in your LLM journey, you'll get slightly different things from this session. If you're just exploring or planning, you'll learn how to build a metrics framework that works for both engineers and business stakeholders. If you're in pilot, you'll learn which metrics actually matter right now. If you're already in production, you'll learn how to optimize what you have and evolve your metrics as your system matures. And here's the agenda for today. First, the problem. Why so many LLM projects fail after demo? And secondly, the solution. What we actually measure, I'll break this into application-specific metrics, business metrics executives care about, and universal metrics that apply everywhere. And finally, implementation, a phased roadmap you can actually use in real projects. Let's start with the problem. Here's a stat from Gartner. Only about half of AI projects ever make it from prototype to production. Everyone starts excited, almost half die before they even get past the idea. And in the end, only a small fraction actually work in production. The exact numbers might vary, but the pattern is always the same. So why does this happen? The first pain point is that tech and business are not aligned. The tech teams optimize for model accuracy, the business cares more about cost reduction or revenue. So you end up with a chatbot that gives great answers, but doesn't really reduce complaint costs or doesn't save any money, and doesn't move the metrics the business actually cares about. The second pain point is proof of concept doesn't reflect reality. In proof of concepts, users ask clean questions, but in production, they ask 5 things at once. Accuracy might drop, and traffic might spike, and suddenly, most conversations escalate to human anyway. If you don't measure the right things early, you will not be able to see this coming. And then the final pain point is ethics blind spot. Teams measure what's visible, like accuracy, speed, or cost, but not what's below the surface, like hallucination, bias, and toxicity. So let's talk about solutions. What should we actually measure? So this is the 3-layer framework. Layer 1 at the top are horizontal metrics. These apply to everything, like every chatbot, every RAG system, and every agent. You can think of these as essential signs like blood pressure or heart rate. And then the second layer is application-specific metric. A chatbot has different needs than a RAG system, and the RAG is different from an AI agent. So we will need different metrics for each one. And then the third layer is business metric. This is how you prove your value to executives, like time saved, money saved, and revenue generated. Without this layer, your project probably dies in budget season. Now let's break down each application type. So let's start with chatbots. Most of you are probably either building one or using one already. To understand how we measure them, we first need to understand what makes LLM-powered chatbots different. Look at a traditional rule-based chatbot. When customer says, "I want to return my laptop," the bot might reply, "Please select A, B, or C." And then the customer says, "It's broken." The bot says, "I don't understand that." Now look at the LLM version. The same conversation. The bot says, "I can help with that. What's wrong with it?" Customer says it's broken, and then the bot replies, "I'm so sorry to hear that. I see you bought this on blah blah blah. You are within the return window. I'll send you a prepaid label." So that's the difference. LLM chatbots can understand intent, maintain context, and respond naturally. And that's why they're game-changing. So the big question is, How do you know if a chatbot actually works? The answer is this pipeline you see here. Understand correctly, solve efficiently, and finally deliver good outcomes. The first is to understand correctly. Before anything else, the bot has to understand what the user wants. One metric is intent recognition accuracy. If a customer says, I haven't received my refund yet, they're trying to check their refund status. If the bot tries to start a brand new refund request, that's the wrong intention, and the user can get confused. Another metric is entity extraction accuracy. For example, if the user says, I want to return the blue shoes I bought last Tuesday, can the bot extract the product, the color, and then the date? These two metrics tell us one thing. Did the bot actually understand the user? And if this layer fails, everything after it breaks. And understanding alone doesn't create value. So we need to look at first contact resolution. Did the issue get resolved without handing off to a human? This is the metric that proves real automation. The next metric is average handling time. How long does it take for the first message to resolution? The lower, the better. But if it's too low, it usually means the user just gives up. At the end of the day, user behavior tells the truth. Conversation completion rate tell us did users actually reach done or did they just abandon halfway? High abandonment is a clear signal of friction. Another metric is escalation to human rate. If lots of conversation got escalated, your bot might sound smart, but it's not actually helping. So these metrics work together as a system. Understanding enables resolution, resolution drives outcomes, and user behavior validates whether the chatbot actually works. All right, let's move on to RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. The idea is simple. Before the AI answers, it does its homework first. Let's use the example of an internal company policy RAG system. Let's say if a colleague asks, what's our remote work policy for international travel? If you ask a Play LLM, it doesn't know your company's rules. Best case, it guesses. Worst case, it makes something up. With RAG, the flow changes. Step 1 is retrieval. The system searches your company knowledge base. It finds the HR policy and the travel guidelines which are relevant. It might also find the benefits handbook, which might not be relevant. Step 2 is generation. Now the LLM generates an answer only using what's being retrieved. You can work remotely abroad for up to 30 days per year, approval required 2 weeks in advance. And more importantly, it shows the sources. That's why RAG is powerful. Answers come from your documents, always up to date, transparent, and grounded. Now, how do we measure if it works? The first one is retrieval quality. Did we find the right documents? The first metric is retrieval precision. Of what we retrieved, how much was relevant? High precision means no junk and less distraction to LLM. And also retrieval recall. Did we retrieve everything important? Low recall means the answer can be correct but incomplete. You need both high precision and high recall. And next one is generation quality. Did the model actually use those documents properly? Faithfulness means are the claims in the answer supported by retrieved sources, no made-up information. Context relevance means did the model actually use the retrieved content or ignore key documents? So the RAG quality comes down to two things. Retrieve the right information, then generate answers that stay grounded in it. That's how RAG moved from cool idea to something you can trust in production. The last application is AI agent. This is really the frontier. If you think about it, a chatbot responds to you. RAG searches, then responds. An agent plans, decides, and acts on your behalf. Look at the example on the slide. The user says, book me a flight to Tokyo. The first step is planning. The agent breaks this into steps. Search flights, compare options, and book the best one. And then execution. Now it actually uses tools, such as calling a flight search API, comparing results, And then finally calls the booking API to confirm. And finally, the outcome. The user gives one instruction, the agent handles the entire task end to end. So how do we measure if agents are working? First one is planning quality. Plan completeness measures, did the agent identify all necessary steps? And selection accuracy measures, did they choose the right tool for each step? Picking the wrong tool wastes time, money, and often leads to bad results. And bad plans means the task can fail, even before the execution starts. And then the next one is execution quality. And tool call success rate measures did the API call actually succeed. External systems fail in the real world. If the tool call breaks, the agent breaks. And finally, outcome. This is where the business value shows up. Call completion rate measures did the agent finish the entire task end to end. This is the North Star metric for agents. And autonomy rate measures how often did the agent complete the task without human intervention. So for AI agent, success means good plans, reliable execution, and autonomous outcomes. That's how agents move from demo to real production value. Up to now, we've talked about technical metrics, but businesses don't just invest in AI just because the model is fancy. They invest because it creates business value. So across all LLM applications, the value usually shows up in four pillars. The first one is efficiency gains. The most intermediate value is efficiency. The most immediate value is efficiency. Take a customer support chatbot as an example. If it can resolve common questions end to end, you save time per ticket. This is often the first signal that an AI system is doing something useful. And then the second one is money impact. Efficiency turns into money very quickly. For AI agent, this can be lower the cost per workflow. For an e-commerce chatbot, this can be revenue generated from recommending products to customers. And then the third one is adoption and engagement. For a RAG system, adoption tells you whether users trust the answer enough to rely on them instead of searching manually. And finally, there's satisfaction. Are users happy enough to keep using the system and recommend it to others? So these four pillars, efficiency, money, adoption, and satisfaction, are how business value actually shows up. Okay, we've covered application-specific metrics. Now let's talk about universal metrics. We can think of these as the vital signs of your LLM system. The first one is performance. The question here is simple. Can your system handle real-world load? It's easy to demo with 50 users. What happens when 5,000 users show up at once? This is where metrics like response time, throughput, token efficiency start to matter. If it's slow, users leave straight away. If it can't at scale, it crashes. The second one is cost. This is about sustainability. A system might work perfectly, but if the infrastructure cost is even higher than revenue, it's not sustainable. And then the third one is safety. Is the system reliable and responsible? Does it hallucinate? Does it produce toxic or biased outputs? And finally, transparency. Can you explain why the system give an answer? Can you show the source? Citation accuracy and explainability are very important in regulated industries. In many cases, this isn't optional, it's a requirement. So all these four pillars are not nice to haves. They are what determine whether an AI system can actually run in production. Okay, we've covered what to measure. Now let's talk about how and when. This is the practical part. This slide shows a typical LLM project journey and how metrics should evolve over time. The most important takeaway is don't try to track everything from day one, but add metrics incrementally phase by phase. Before you even start building anything, you need a baseline, like time to resolution, tickets per day, cost per tickets. This gives you the before picture, so you can prove your improvement later. And the first stage, you're probably in a sandbox with about 20 testers. You need to prove, does this technology work at all? So you focus on core technical metrics such as intent recognition, entity extraction, and answer acceptance. And next, you move to pilot phase with real users, maybe with 5% of traffic. And now the question becomes, does it work in real world? You start to add production readiness metrics like average handling time, first contact resolution. And you start tracking horizontal metrics like LLM response time, token cost, and hallucination rates. And finally, you go to 100% traffic. At this point, you want full coverage. You need to add capacity metrics like throughput and uptime, peak load handling, full business metrics like cost savings, deflection rate. So the pattern is simple. You're not boiling the ocean on day one. You are laying metrics as the system matures, and this is how teams move fast. That's the end of the presentation. I hope this session helps you build AI systems, and thank you for your time.